We come to it at last, the conclusion to our mini-series about toxic relationships in fiction. And to round out the month, we are releasing this video on the 29th. How peculiar a day for so peculiar and horrifying a story as The Coffin of Andy and Leyley. Hi there everyone, Lars here from Camille's Harem, not just a podcast by novice writers for novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers, because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends, and oh boy, this is one that I was warned not to do, but hey, I am here anyway because I want to talk about the absolute peak of toxic relationships, that is the relationship that steers the entire story between Andrew and Ashley. But for a quick point of recap, for those of you who have no idea what this game is, or for those of you who have only heard about the terrifying incest game of Andy and Leyley, this story right here, The Coffin of Andy and Leyley, is about two siblings locked in their apartment during a mysterious quarantine, which they quickly come to discover is meant to kill them. Now then, the mystery is still being slowly unveiled, slowly solved, which involves weird, horrifying RoboCop corporatism, government conspiracies, cultists, assassins, demons being summoned to the world, and a whole lot of other crazy whatnot. But everything that's happening right here is being driven by the horrifyingly toxic relationship between brother and sister, as they try to figure out what the heck is happening to them. Are they really infected with weird parasites, or is there some greater conspiracy afoot? What is our neighbor doing over here? Oh, he's trying to summon a demon? Kill him, and then later on dismember him, and hey, why not eat him? Which then leads to them going around killing guards, killing another one of their neighbors, escaping out into the world, eventually killing their parents, summoning demons, killing an assassin who's sent by the company to get rid of them, all part of a cover-up, which cover-up goes even beyond organ harvesting, but really is more about basically taking over the country, as far as all of the different signs are pointing to. And of course, again, wrapping this all up is this horrifyingly toxic relationship with very uncomfortable amounts of sexual tension between these two characters, and your choices in this game do matter, though not in a Deltarune or Undertale kind of way where there is a chance to get a happy ending. Oh no, there is no happy ending reserved for this game. This game is the embodiment of what I said in my very first video on the topic of toxic relationships at the beginning of this month, that some people just love toxic relationships because they love watching a train wreck play out in slow motion. The Coffin of Andy and Leyley is watching this glorious train wreck with exploding cars, hundreds of people dying in horrifying ways, all played out slowly to your favorite music. Now, if that doesn't sell you on the fact that you should be playing this game, I don't know what will. But I'm not going to talk so much about the plot of this game or dive into the psychology of these characters. There's plenty of other YouTubers who I think have actually done a fantastic job of that already. Instead, I want to talk about why, again, people are so drawn to toxicity within fiction. And this game, I do believe, is the perfect poster child for that specific argument. At the beginning of the month, I argued that we should not be taking toxic relationships and putting them up onto a pedestal and saying, look, this is amazing, this is awesome, this is what you should aspire to in real life. In fact, The Coffin of Andy and Leyley very firmly grabs you by your shirt and shakes you and is all like, this is awful. Everything about this relationship between these two characters is awful. On a platonic level, on a sibling level, and on a romantic level. Everything is awful. Ashley is a psychopath. She is a murder psychopath who only cares about herself and tormenting her older brother because she loves him. It is such a demented, twisted, perverse view on relationships, on what, at least for her, really has any sort of meaning, has any sort of love, has any sort of connection, excitement. She finds a thrill in tormenting her brother, and she cannot be happy unless she has her brother all to herself, even going so far as to kill her parents. Killing her parents is not simply because she wants revenge or because she hated them, it's because that way there's now no one else left to lay claim to her brother. Oh boy, it gets dark. And as for Andrew, there's no fixing this poor guy either. He has been absolutely shattered by the things that Ashley has had him do, including murdering one of her friends when they were just kids, as well as then all the other murders that they've committed since the beginning of the game. And he has just been broken through years of abuse, and he is this caged animal ready to lash out and destroy anyone and everything, including Ashley, should they happen to press the wrong buttons. And even though he says that he has remorse and he's tormented by these nightmares, as we see, he is more than willing to do it again and again and again. He is a creature of horrible habits. And then on top of that, what is just the absolute worst for this guy is that he wants Ashley's attention. At the end of the day, the moment that she gives him any sort of positive reinforcement, all is forgiven, at least in the time being, and he is willing to repeat the nasty process of letting his sister abuse him. And the game makes a point that none of this is okay. There are no happy endings to be had here whatsoever. Even if you take what I believe is meant to be kind of the biggest route of the game, which is we solve the mystery of what the cultists are doing, what the demons are all trying to accomplish, how this company is trying to usurp the government with their shoddy products and with having people quarantined and all these other things that's happening right here. I do believe that the game is actually meant to kind of point us in that direction and eventually kind of bring everything down, but that doesn't actually fix any of the core problems to this world, nor does it fix Andy and Leyley. They cannot be fixed. Ashley and Andrew are just shattered, psychotic, horrifying, murderous individuals. There is no redemption for them. And at some point you just think, yeah, just get rid of them. When you see the potential future of Andrew killing Ashley, you're like, yes, let that happen. And yet at the same time you're like, but Ashley deserves far worse. And then Andrew's just going to be this monster unleashed on society. We should get rid of both of them. But if we get rid of both of them, that's actually kind of doing them a service because they're just such awful people. Keeping them alive almost seems actually like the more torturous, more appropriate way to get justice on these two characters. And you almost say like, yes, let them get into their incestual relationship. Let them torture and destroy each other. But wait, then Ashley and Andrew would be happy. Oh no, that isn't any good either. And you begin to realize none of this is any good. So again, why bother playing this game? I've said that you absolutely should. I really do recommend sitting down and playing the Coffin of Andy and Leyley if, and I'm going to say this, a little caveat right here, if you're old enough, if you're mature enough. If you are a preteen or young teenager, I actually would not recommend this game, simply because I think you're going to buy a little bit too much into the angstiness of this and think that Ashley and Andrew are relationship goals. Eesh. And I say that not because I'm some weirdo who's like, oh, kids these days don't understand, but I was a teacher for 4 years and I met all kinds of students, and I've seen students try to replicate in their own lives all kinds of things that they consumed from fiction. This is a game that I do believe, especially with its content, is one that does require a little bit more of maturity to understand all of this is wrong. But again, I'm going to say that people should play this game because this game very clearly says all of this toxicity is not okay. Hey, we are going in deep with these characters to prove that in some cases there is no saving them. There are no good choices to be made. Hey, we've talked about on this channel already about the episode with Miss Heed, where Dr. Flug had to realize Miss Heed is trying to use me. She needs to go and she needs to fix herself, and he separates himself from a very bad relationship. In Beauty and the Beast, Belle leaves Beast when he's at his absolute worst, and it's incumbent upon Beast to actually realize, I have been the awful one, I need to change, and Beast for himself begins to change. And then we have something like Please Don't Tease Me, Miss Nagatoro, where Nagatoro's relationship with Senpai is redeemed from toxic to wholesome because both of these characters have healthy interactions with each other and are both seeking to improve individually and with each other. In these cases, we have a character who realizes that a relationship is toxic and leaves. And then we have other examples where characters realize this situation is toxic, let's change it. And well, bada bing, bada boom. Characters then do the right things in order to redeem those important relationships. But when we look at the coffin of Andy and Leyley, we see that Andrew and Ashley continuously, repeatedly make the wrong choices. And that's because neither one of them actually wishes to change. They have no desire to rectify the mistakes of their past. They want to bury them, which is where we get really the title, because either the coffin of Andy and Leyley means that Andrew and Ashley are hellbound on this journey to destroying each other, to destroying themselves because of their bad actions, or they are trying to destroy the people that they were in their past and bury them and try to move on, but without actually healing as individuals. And one could even argue that there really is no healing for these two at this point, other than to go into a psych ward and receive all the amenities and all the help that the entirety of Europe can provide to them. And so ultimately, there is this very important message, a very important answer to a question that I've actually been asked numerous times while doing this mini-series. Lars, why bother talking about these toxic relationships? Why should we focus potentially on the redemption of a toxic relationship when in real life, that doesn't always go over very well? And one of the reasons why people say leave toxic relationships behind, leave abusers behind, there's a reason why I said in the very first video of this mini-series that everyone in real life knows that this is a horrifying, horrible situation and you should just leave. Why in fiction do we continuously come back to it and try to find ways of fixing it? Well, there is a certain power fantasy dynamic. People do want happy endings. People are enamored with the idea of redemption. I know I'm one of those kinds of people. And generally speaking, people just want to see wholesomeness. Whereas there's also a certain part of the population that really enjoys seeing these toxic relationships and kind of gets off to it. But at the same time, everyone wants kind of that happy ending. And the coffin of Andy and Leyley, again, takes you by the shirt and shakes you and says, look, in some cases, there is no fixing anyone. You can't fix them. They need to want to change for themselves, and neither of these characters truly desire to change. As a result, they are bound to each other in this horrible relationship, which will destroy them one way or the other, where they will either kill each other or they will get into a romantic incestuous relationship, which won't actually fix any of their problems. It will just bind them even more to each other in a relationship that we see throughout the entire game is eating them alive. Andrew and Ashley are doomed because they refuse to change, because they refuse to seek to be better, because they refuse to look for the goodness in their lives within themselves and to separate themselves from the other in order to save themselves from this horrible, toxic, destructive relationship. And so the game is inviting you to sit down, play it on out, enjoy the train wreck that is the life of Andrew and Ashley as they try to navigate their horrible relationship and the terrifying world that they live in, and reminds you, if you think that any of this is hot or okay, you're just as insane as Ashley and just as willfully delusional as Andrew. Calm down, just watch things play out, and enjoy how this all ends, because no toxic relationship wherein anyone is willing to change for the better can ever end in a happy way. And that is a very important, very powerful message, and again, a reason why I do believe that people should play this game, especially if they're like, I love my good toxic relationships. I just enjoy it so much. I enjoy the angstiness. This is a game that has made almost everyone universally very uncomfortable, and that's the point, to prove it's not okay. And so, to wrap up my mini-series on toxic relationships within fiction, I think that what we can learn from toxic relationships within fiction is that really there's so much you can do with them. You can use toxic relationships to highlight the more positive qualities in other more positive and healthy relationships. They can be used to explore the depths of a character and also to help hopefully set up a character's redemption by leaving that relationship, or by showing the downfall of a character by staying with it, because as the coffin of Andy and Leyley shows, if you stay within a toxic relationship and neither character is willing to change and to work together to bring about a good positive change, it is doomed to destruction. And so yeah, there is a lot that you can actually do with toxic relationships, all different kinds of forms that they can take, all different ways in which they can be resolved. It comes down to you as the creator, you as the author, to decide what you want to do with this particular relationship. But again, I'm just going to say this. I feel that toxic relationships are used best within a story as a cautionary tale, rather than as something to be aggrandized, something to be celebrated, and something to be replicated in real life. Because again, I've just seen it happen way too often, especially with younger, more impressionable people, that they are willing to accept and believe that toxic relationships are okay, and that they will continue to delude themselves and think that even if they are in one, that it's okay, that this is what they deserve, that it's good when it's good, that it can get better. But if they were to actually consume stories that show toxic relationships for really what they are, and to play them out in such a way that either is instructive that this is what could happen to you if you continue to be in one, or this is how you can recognize that you are in a toxic relationship, this is how a toxic relationship can be redeemed, or this is how you can realize that, look, what I really just want is a positive relationship, and get out of it and go to something else. That right there is really worthwhile. That is productive. That has merit to the audience. So with all that being said, before I just continue to sound all self-righteous up here on my soapbox, play the Coffin of Andy and Leyley if you haven't already done so. Be horrified and enjoy the train wreck. But that will do it for this mini-series. We will move on for a time away from the conversations of love and romance, except for as we're talking about the Dangers in My Heart Season 2 as it continues to play out. That is the good, wholesome, redeeming fluffiness that we all need in our lives. Make sure that you check that out. And if you'd like to support everything that we do here, then please check out our other videos. Like, share, comment, subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you would especially like to support what we do, then please check out the books that we have published. Links for them are in the description below. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us on this incredible, sometimes horrifying adventure that we call writing, and tschüss.